So Onward is the new Pixar film. It's actually the first 2020 film, technically, I've seen this year. It's about two brothers, one called Ian and one called Barley. The film is set in a fantasy world, but it's like a modern fantasy world where magic used to be there, but now it's gone. It's a bit like Bright, really. It is Ian's 16th birthday, and you know, he's a bit of a shy guy. His brother, on the other hand, is a D&D nut. Can I say nut? Well, should I say nut? I don't know. Is that the right word? He likes Dungeons and Dragons, basically, and he's also a bit of a failure to his family. He doesn't have a job, you know. He's just sitting there in his van all day playing Dungeons and Dragons, basically. So their dad died, and you know, Ian's never met his dad before. So on Ian's 16th birthday, his mum says to him, "Oh, hey, I've got a present from your dad." Their father has passed down to them a spell and a magic star, which gives them the ability to bring him back for one whole day, so like Ian can finally meet him. As all films, something goes wrong when the spell is done. Only half of the dad comes back, which, you know, bit inconvenient. So that's the whole gimmick of the film. It's like, hey, he's just some legs. The dad is just legs, you know? Sorry, it's really hot in this room. I'm getting really agitated. Let me open that damn window. God. Oh, for God's sake, it's raining. I would take my top off, but that would be weird. So yeah, and you know, there's a setup, and now chaos ensues, a little bit of an adventure. Might meet some friends along the way, might meet some enemies on the way. The typical family fun animated film adventure. That's what happens. That's what I'm trying to get out my mouth because I can't speak right now. You know, I think everybody has high expectation for a Pixar film because, you know, they've made so many great films. WALL-E, Toy Story, Finding Nemo, Incredibles, Monsters Inc., Toy Story 2 and 3, Toy Story 4. Some people don't like it. I like it, as you can see by the characters here. Ratatouille. I have a good bit of Ratatouille. Not the food. Food's horrible. The film, though. The Pixar film. But yeah, I had lots of high expectations for Pixar films, and I guess the main question is, does this film deliver, and does it have the Pixar magic which everybody comes to expect when watching their films? And if I'm going to break down this film, let's talk about the concept. So the concept I think is really cool. I think it's got a lot of emotional potential. Whether it hits that or not, I'll tell you in a bit. For me, personally, this will probably be in my lower, maybe mid-ground of Pixar films in a ranking if I was to do one. I think what this film is really missing is the Pixar-ness of it. It felt more DreamWorks and Pixar at points, and especially I would say in the second act of the film. The film is a road trip film and finds it hard to make that kind of road trippiness, I don't know, creative. I don't want to say creative because there is creative stuff there, but I don't know, that middle part of the film just wasn't for me. But the opening of the film's great. I think you can I really identified the character of Ian. Ian and Barley. Barley's kind of annoying at the beginning. I think he's supposed to be. You're supposed to be like, oh, this guy's kind of a bum. The first act of the film, I think, is pretty strong. You got the setup of the relationships between Barley and Ian as brothers, between them and their mum, and between them and their dad. Barley spent a few years of his life with his dad and knew him well, but Ian didn't. He didn't meet him at all because he wasn't born when he was alive, you know? So there's a whole theme of Ian wanting to meet his dad, which I think is nice. I felt the emotion there. And for me, when they bring back the dads and they start the road trip, it kind of loses it a little bit. A lot of the jokes fall a bit flat, and it just put the film down a bit for me. But, you know, humor's subjective. The road trip part gets better, but I think it's very hard to get into because there's not as much heart as I was expecting. I was expecting him to be a bit more emotional with the fact that their dad's hanging out with them all the time. And I don't think that is entirely Pixar's fault. I think it's very hard for people to identify with a pair of legs. There's the odd thing in there which you're like, oh, that's kind of nice, when, you know, when the dad's like touching his feet with their feet, like, oh, you're there. There's a great scene which I enjoyed, which I won't spoil, but it involves dancing. That was really nice. That was in the second act of the film, so I don't entirely dislike it. I found the Pixie part a bit meh. Some of the characters, like the mum's alright, she's fine, and I think that goes for the Manticore as well. The Manticore's an interesting character, but I don't know, I wanted to be with Ian and Barley and their dad a bit more. I think the filmmakers could have focused on that a bit more, because I think that's what the film needs, you know, that's the crux of the film, and I think I didn't get, personally, enough time with those characters to get the full emotional impact by the end of it. But yeah, I guess that brings me to the third act of the film, which I think is really good. The story went in a way which I didn't think it was going to go. I commend Pixar on making the decision they made at the end of the film. I think it's very mature of them. That's what I said to my mum. I want to see this with my mum. How cool am I? So story-wise, it didn't fully get there for me, but I could appreciate the bits where it did. There was a lot of shit in the middle, but overall the story is it's pretty good. I like Ian and Barley. Barley, like I said, he's kind of annoying at the beginning, but you grow to love him as a character. Tom Holland and Chris Pratt have a really good have really good chemistry. You can see that they're brothers. You don't think, oh, that's Chris Pratt, oh, that's Tom Holland. You're just like, hey, it's Ian and Barley, the characters. Visually, it's great. Even though I kind of like the character designs, they feel a bit weird in the world because the world looks so realistic, even though it's set in a fantasy world. These really cartoony characters walking about kind of look out of place, but nonetheless, I still enjoyed watching it. It still looks amazing. At the moment, because I've on my letterbox ranking of Pixar films, I have put it as 12th. At the moment, that's where it stands at this current moment. It could move when on repeat viewings of it, because I definitely want to watch it again. But yeah, I don't think I've got across, but I really enjoyed watching it. It was just a bit slow in the middle for me, but it got there in the end. That is my summary of my experience of Onward. For me, it's a solid 3.5. So this is like it's a good film. I enjoyed it. It's definitely a Pixar film, even though it struggles at some points and falls a bit flat on the jokes. I think it's definitely enjoyable, and I would watch it again. It's definitely missing something. All in all, I enjoyed it. That's the end of my little review on the film. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'm at 74 subscribers. I don't know why I'm pointing this way. I'm not going to put anything there saying I have 74 subscribers. I'm just doing that. So yeah, almost at 75. Just one more. If you're unsubscribed, I'm looking at you. Well, I'm not looking at you, but I'm saying that because you should subscribe. Get me to 75. That would be nice. Or I'll just make another account and do that instead. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, thank you for watching. Goodbye.